But ecosystem services, sort of the broad general definition of that is that they are the benefits that people obtain from ecosystems. And it's a concept that has gained a lot of momentum over recent years. Generally, they're seen as several categories of ecosystem services, from the very direct provisioning ones, our food, our fiber, our fresh water, to the regulating ones that support or that underpin these provisioning ones, those supporting services, so things like soil formation, biodiversity photosynthesis, the regulating services such as flood control, carbon storage, water purification, and there are very important cultural services. So the things like the aesthetics, the value that we get from landscapes, the recreation that we do in the landscapes. These are sort of categories that are often used, but you see that there's a wide range of benefits, and the concept tries to incorporate all of these. Now, the concept of ecosystem services has gained a lot of momentum over the last couple of decades, starting with the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, which was published in the late 2000s and started around 2005. It started off as an assessment just of the world's ecosystem and biodiversity, but very soon the sort of global population of academics working on that study realized that you cannot look at biodiversity and ecosystem services in isolation from humans and the way humans use the planet, and that actually the concept of ecosystem services is a very good concept to bring together the natural world, the biophysical world, the ecosystems, and humans and the way they use the planet. And so there's been a couple of follow-on assessments, global ones, regional ones. So in the UK, the National Ecosystem Assessment is probably well known to all of you, and some of you may have contributed to it. And this type of thinking has then also sort of trickled through to longer-term government policy. So in Scotland, we have the biodiversity strategy, land use strategy, and these are underpinned by the types of thinking that is also underpins the ecosystem services framework. And this type of thinking has gone further also into the major NGOs, their landscape scale projects. And so more and more is happening right now, but it remains quite a nebulous concept, and actually how to operationalize it, use it in the way that these reports say that it can be used, remains quite difficult. And that's where a lot of research is taking place, but also where we feel it's very good to have debate and open discussion about how things can be used and how we can learn from each other. It's important to understand and realize that there is a distinction, but also a link between two key concepts. The ecosystem approach, which is coined by the CBD 10-15 years ago and is definitely very strongly present in the Scottish policy, which is a way of intervening and managing ecosystems at a systems level, but also has a participatory approach element to it that is very important. And on the other hand, the ecosystem services framework, which is a way of understanding how nature provides benefits for us, and also the link between nature and human well-being. And these two concepts work together very nicely, but they are two different concepts which are sometimes confused. And at our ESCOM conference last year, Kerry Whalen and Kirsty Blackstock led a discussion about these two concepts and the differences and the definitions, and wrote a two-page policy brief about that that is included in your pack and is also available on the ESCOM website. But to make the distinction, also explore the synergies between these two concepts. Now, there is a lot of research going on ecosystem services and how we can actually use it. There are many sort of conceptual papers that say that it's a great approach to manage our natural world, but then actually, how do you do that in real life? So the Scottish Government is funding research under their RESAS strategic programme for the James Hutton Institute and for SRUC. And at the same time, the European Union is funding a lot of research across Europe, but also with projects that have very strong case studies in Scotland. So I already mentioned the Optus project that we coordinate from Edinburgh. There's also the Openness project that has a strong leading role for the Centre of Ecology and Hydrology, and they're working in the Cairngorms National Park in Lochleven Estate. And there's the Green Surge project, which is focusing very much on green urban infrastructure, which is led or has a large component led by Forest Research, and they're working in Edinburgh as part of the Edinburgh Living Landscape. So there's a lot of research happening in Scotland that all got funded around the same time, and we realized that as researchers we should work together. We should not send conflicting messages to the policy community, and we should see how, and we all wanted to, as part of our missions, we had to make sure that our research was relevant for policy and practice. So that spurred the initial setup or the initial development of ESCOM, with the idea to become a community of practice around ecosystem services to support decision-making and natural resource management in Scotland. And there are several things that were identified by the researchers initially, but also confirmed at the conference last year and discussions we've had since then, that it's important to have this dialogue between science, policy and practice, to understand what the needs are, to make sure that the research feeds into the user needs, and also for everyone to understand, develop a new sort of mode of collaboration between science, policy and practice. It's important for us to align our research to make sure that we look for synergies, that we don't compete or confuse. And it was very useful to organise events to promote knowledge exchange around ecosystem services. So we had our conference last year, and there were quite a few things that came up as things that we could do for the wider community. To have a forum for discussion, to work on collaborative or transdisciplinary research, to try to better inform policy making, to facilitate ongoing initiatives, but again to have discussion, networking opportunities, making our research accessible, providing a legacy for research, so not that when a project is over it's just written up in academic papers, but that it can actually live on in applications, and to raise awareness about ecosystem services as an approach, but also to have a debate about the usefulness and when it can be used and when it maybe is not so useful. 97% of the people at last year's conference thought it was a useful conference and useful initiative to move forward, which was great and very encouraging. But it was also a challenge to move it from a group of mainly research institutes thinking it was a useful thing to do, to actually forming a community that has more buy-in from other parts, from the policy and the practice communities. We've had to rejig some of our organisation, our governance, and that has taken longer than we initially hoped, but I think we now have a reasonably good structure where we try to put the policy and practice needs at the centre of what we're doing and establish a board which we call ASCOM Central, which has representation from the research but also from policy and the NGO community, that looks at what and makes sure that what we do is relevant. And then we have 4 themes or process areas, starting off with data and information tools, where we want to talk about, explore possibilities of making data and information tools more accessible and more useful, leading into knowledge and decision support, so that's sort of one step up the ladder, doing things that are really can underpin and help policy and practice, thinking about policy instruments, so how the concept of ecosystem services can be used in policy, but also very importantly, evaluating how things are going, how things are used, and whether this is actually a useful approach. We have sort of theme leads or process area leads for these different components from the academic side, but also from the Scottish Government side and from the agencies. So you'll see that SEPA and Scottish Government are involved in thinking about the policy instruments, but also on our central management board we have all these organisations, but also the Scottish Environment Link representing the NGOs, the Wildlife Trust, and SRUC. So we have a good group of people trying to move this forward. We've tried to organise a number of events over the last year, some thematic workshops, trying to set up collaborative working groups, which we'll also be discussing further tomorrow. And we've just launched our new website, and there's a big push to have more of a presence and more of a dissemination, knowledge exchange function through social media and the website. This is our website, ascom.scot, also mentioned on your papers. But one thing that I'd like to encourage all of you to do is to join ASCOM. Click on that button there, leave your contact details, and you'll get newsletters and emails about sort of upcoming events that we're organising. Also, we hope that in that way you'll feel part of the community and will also be able to contribute to future events. So then about today, as I said before, today is the conference part, exploring the progress in ecosystem science, policy and practice over a full day. We'll go through those 4 process areas that I showed you before. Each of them have an hour on the agenda, and those slots will be chaired and led by the leads of that particular process area. In the afternoon, at the end, we'll do a brief preparation for the unconference for tomorrow to think about the themes that are relevant to discuss tomorrow in the unconference. And we'll have some reflections on the day and ending with some drinks. So hopefully many of you can stay around for the drinks. Anyone who wants to join us for dinner afterwards, a group of us will be going to Spoon, a local restaurant, so let any of the organisation know if you're interested in joining for that. There will be Q&As and discussion moments during these sessions, but we want to capture as much of your ideas and your thoughts as possible, so we'll have loads of post-it opportunities as well for you to write down ideas and feedback. Starting with these 1 hour slots. At the start of each slot you'll be given some post-its, and we'd like you to write down comments, suggestions, ideas, anything that comes to mind about these sessions or the topics, which we'll be harvesting and sticking on the whiteboards here at the end of each session. We won't be able to go into full immediate analysis of the post-its, but we'll have them for analysis afterwards. We're also very keen if anyone wants to organise a future event, host a workshop, organise a field visit. There is a poster board outside where you can indicate if you're interested in leading something. Topics for the unconference, there's also a poster board outside. If you have a topic you'd like to discuss tomorrow, you think it's relevant to discuss, please leave a post-it there. And we have a map, so if you have particular areas of Scotland where you're working right now, that's doing something with ecosystem services, there's the possibility to indicate that on the map. Unconference, tomorrow, it's all about you and the ideas that you have. The idea is that you all feel very engaged by proposing your own ideas and leading discussion groups yourselves, and that as a result will have energized contributions and commitment, possibly leading to next steps, and we'll record all the ideas, recommendations and discussions so that we'll be able to take those forward. As I said before, no predefined agenda, so it's all a bit risky, but it should also be fun. You propose the topics on the bulletin board today and give a short pitch tomorrow morning at the start to get to see who wants to join you on your topic, and then we'll have sort of 1 hour breakout sessions per topic. Agenda shaped around your interests, but we will be reporting things back in plenary. Finally, we have quite a bit of student engagement in today as well. So 2 of my students who are sitting at the back, Janine and Susanna, they're working on a survey that will eventually be launched at the European level, exploring what policy and practice needs are from research. What types of tools would you be using? How do you make decisions? How can decisions be supported? So they'll be sort of asking some of you questions during the coffee breaks and trialing some of the questions that they have on the questionnaire that will later be launched at the European level, but will also be sent out in Scotland to see what policy needs there are or operational needs there are so that we can improve what we're doing in the Opus project, but it's also directly relevant for ESCOM. So hopefully by the end of the day we'll have loads of post-its to analyse and to make sure that we move forward in a positive way, and hopefully you'll have a great and inspiring day. With that, I'd like to end the introduction and give the floor to Alessandro and Callum, who will lead the first 1 hour slot on the knowledge and information tools.